Super excited to announce the Law Firm Retreat Design Your Future being held this August 5th through 8th, 2026 in the Denver, Colorado area. Teaming up with law firm architects, Power Strategy Group, we're going to be having an amazing opportunity for up to 15 firms to work on the business, not in the business. Find out more at powerstrategygroup.com.
I figured out that people like the writing that I do with AI better than they like my writing. And that hurt a little bit. I had to admit to it. And then I had to go, that's why we're doing this. We're smoothing off the rough edges that I have. We maybe take away a little bit of the personality, but we increase the accessibility and understanding. So, and that's just one use, and it's just one experience, but I think that it's informative that we just need to look at and recognize. I also think us lawyers don't like to be beginners.
Yes.
And so we have to be beginners on this.
At
And the
some
truth
point,
is,
you have to be a
everybody
beginner on everything. Yeah.
everybody's a beginner with it.
Welcome back to Power Up Your Practice, everyone. I have a really awesome guest, Charity Anastasio, who is a longtime friend. We know each other through the American Immigration Lawyers Association, where she is extraordinaire with practice in Ethics Counsel, and she's a former practicing attorney. She's worked in lots of different state bars, and she has a lot of experience, so I'll let her go into a little bit more about that. But the other fun thing that we get to see each other is through the American Bar Association's Law Practice Division, because she helped mentor me into getting involved on some of the committees, and we're serving on the ABA Tech Show board this year together. So it's been fun to have your bubbly, informative personality on the board, Charity. So welcome to the show.
That's a nice way to say wordy and
No, I
talkative.
didn't. That's not what I'm saying.
Oh, thanks, Ruby. It is nice to be here. It's always nice to do things with you. It's really fun to talk with you about these things. We have similar perspectives in some ways, and then different perspectives, which is always informative. Yeah, I practiced for 5 years. I did estate planning, probate, and family, and I lived in Seattle, which is a very expensive area, and I liked it, but I didn't love it. I thought I'd love the law, but I didn't love it like some of my friends did, I thought. And I got to a place where I thought, I'm teaching people how to take the bar exam, and I want to do that so much more, even though I hardly get paid anything for it. And so I said, how can I do this 100% of the time, this teaching thing? And then this job, it kind of fell into my lap. I didn't even know it hardly existed. And the Washington State Bar Association advertised for it, and I applied and I got it. And I thought, my first week, I thought, wow, this job is made for me. And I've been doing this work for over a decade now. And it's just the perfect combination of working with people, solving problems, and always kind of having to be ready for the new thing, which is really good for my mind, I think.
Yeah, and you do this type of work over with AILA. What's your technical title at
My
AILA?
actual title is Practice and Ethics Counsel. You
Oh, I
had
did
the
nail
you
it.
had the
Okay.
components right. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But you give consults to AILA members. You help coordinate with giving advice about conferences. I know you're giving like practice advisories. There's a lot of information. You have to wear a lot of hats, and then you're on the ABA law practice different boards, like with the ABA Tech Show with me, and you've done was the practice minute? No, the other one, the CLE one. I forgot what that's called, but you've
Yeah, professional development board.
yes,
I used to lead
yes,
that one.
yes.
And then I think I've probably had a stint in every one of them except for publications.
Oh, okay.
The 2 different magazines and that, yeah. At AILA, it is a lot of the same work that I did at Washington State Bar and then at the Maryland State Bar, which is just a lot of writing, a lot of teaching, presenting to people, different sizes of groups, and one-on-one consultations. And out of any of those, I think the one-on-one consults are the most informative for me because they tell me what the real and true issues are. There's a real give and take there. And so that feedback loop, I think, is really essential for people that do the type of work that I do.
No, I agree. And so I think that's what we want to talk about, sort of like the themes that we're seeing in the practice of law. And you get to hear from these one-on-one consultations. I have them, but not at the volume you do because you service all of AILA, but which is about what, 17,000 members approximately.
17,000 now. Yeah.
Wow.
We did that this year, I think.
And when I do consults like that, like I get a lot of great intel because I'm at different stages, than they are in their practice. And just like, it's really good to hear like what questions are on their mind and what they're seeing. But then also you and I go to a lot of conferences too. Like, I think even though you're in the Maryland area and I'm in the Texas area, I probably see you more than I see my friends that live in Houston because sometimes, because we usually connect at maybe like 3 conferences potentially a year between AILA or maybe 4 of ABA meetings. But in doing so, because you also go to a lot of the case management, legal tech, or the one legal tech the ABA puts on, the tech show, or maybe even the one that we've been doing with AILA. So you're at a lot of different conferences, you're talking to a lot of people, you're reading, you're writing a lot. So what's the hot topic that you think is something that is facing lawyers right now?
Oh, well, I would say maybe it's twofold. I think that I have to say it, artificial intelligence is a game changer. So AI is a factor for people. And I think just about every lawyer should be thinking, I am adopting this, or should I adopt this, or when should I adopt this? And if they aren't, they're thinking, when am I retiring? And then we just have, I think, in our culture and society, a level of change which is sort of exponential. And and maybe people feel that in different ways, like a certain amount of unrest or dissonance. But I think it adds an element of tension for us that will harm our focus and our ability to move forward in whatever it is that we do. And I'm a big fan of Brene Brown. I don't know if you listen to her. I like
Hashtag Houston resident. Whoop, whoop.
right. And I like listening to her because she's got that wonderful voice. And
Mhm.
I don't know how she writes so much. She's just like everywhere. But I heard her speaking about 6 months ago. She made the statement that she thought humans are not neurologically designed to handle the level of change with and the speed with which it's coming at us in
Mm,
the current environment. And she was referencing both political and this technology situation. And I think that is poignant. So the reality is we really have to recognize that our biology is not designed to deal with what we're dealing with,
mm,
and maybe slow it down and be selective and precise about what it is that we choose to move forward with. And that's maybe not the popular idea because I think everybody is saying, well, adopt it right now. Get on that AI bandwagon. But you can get on it and mess up. And so that's why I think a lot of lawyers, we've seen the hallucination cases, and it has terrified a good number of
mhm.
us attorneys would go, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be Schwartz in the front of New York Times. Please, Lord, right? So they just decide they're going to wait until this is settled. That's a very lawyerly thing to do,
Yeah,
right?
very leery thing to do. Just wait until there's guidance on every single thing, exactly what you're supposed to do. A, B, C. I'm allowed to do this. But that's not the way the world works. Like, I mean, I talk about this a lot. Like, there's my lawyer brain and there's my entrepreneurial brain. And that's really
Right,
what this podcast is a lot about, is that Venn diagram of that overlap. And my
right.
entrepreneur brain is like, let's go, people, let's figure this stuff out. And I'm really glad that we've been aggressive and now I get annoyed if my team's not finding the best AI tools to leverage. Like even while I was sitting for 2 hours in the asylum interview yesterday, my client was showing me a cool app, and I was like, "Oh, and how do we do this?" And then like, "Oh, so I can just send a voice note and make an email." Like it was fun. I was enjoying that.
Yeah, you have a very open feeling about technology. Not all attorneys do. Most attorneys go, I want to see the precedent. And then, of course, we see the hallucination cases building up and we think this precedent doesn't look so good. so, so like the cautious lawyer is going, I'm not even going to touch this. I'm not going to touch it until you tell me it's perfectly fine. And then we have the ones that I think are a bit more experimental. And I myself, I had to look at this and go, I I have to know this because I'm supposed to be telling
Yeah.
people about it now, and I know nothing about it. So about 2 years, well, it's probably been 3 years now.
Yeah.
2 or 3 years ago, I got a license to Copilot. My work was so kind, they let me be one of the testers. And I got in there and I started using it. And I think and I also started using Visa Law, which is a product, Greg Siskin's product, testing it. And it, one of the best ways to get to know AI is just to get in there and ask questions. That's what people said. So I got in there and asked questions. And I think there's a certain, what is it? It's like a waypoint that I think most lawyers experience with AI. They either experience one of two things. They go, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. It's going to answer all my questions,
Hmm.
which is the dangerous one because of course it does not, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the one that's a little moving a little too fast and a little too happy to have the job all of a sudden become incredibly easy.
Hmm.
And so it's not actually true. If you get that feeling, check it again. But then there's the other one that is so lawyerly, which is what I did, which is let me prove it wrong. I've got I know I can stump this thing, right? I can add enough fact patterns in my ethics fact pattern that it will fail. And it essentially does. And then some lawyers stop there where they go, it's not really that good. It's not
Because the
really
one
that
time it gave them the wrong answer, and so they'll never touch it again.
exactly. And then they stop there. And I've spent a little time in that waypoint going, it's really not that good. And then I'd even have days where I'd ask it questions and I'd be utterly frustrated because it'd constantly give me the wrong answer. And then somewhere in the process of, but I got to keep on using this. I have to learn how to use it because I have to teach people how to do it. It switched on me where I realized that what I was doing was asking bad questions
Ooh.
and it was user error. And I went, oh. And then I started listening some more, learning some more, and realizing that I had to iterate. I had to iterate on my question and I had to iterate on its answers. And
Mm.
this is when I started picking up on how to use it better.
Mm.
And and now I'm at a point where I feel like it is a collaborative partner with me,
Yeah.
where I give it context. I think the context that I give it is the most important. And I
Mm.
think that's the thing that many lawyers would find if they can find that place where they give it context, which is this is what I wrote before, write it like this, or this is the tone I expect, or look at these three documents and combine them into one,
Mhm.
or just giving it the context of your files, which is what I like about that Microsoft Copilot for me. I know we don't endorse particular products, but a product that is looking at you and who you
Mhm.
are and learns to know your own
Mhm.
tones and ways that you write and then writes like you and then has this sort of back and forth where I ask it to do something like that, but then I add to it and then I rewrite little parts and then I ask it to expound on something. I actually find that it has improved things significantly. My speed, 2-day projects take me 2 hours now, maybe 3 hours. That's outstanding. The actual analysis that I have to do sometimes on data, far superior, as long as I make sure that it shows me the work, because it doesn't always get things right. And I have to be really smart at looking at it and making sure that it's looking at the right things and interpreting it right, because it can get off. Um, it's it's this tool, it's improving my work. I had to let go of one thing.
Mm.
I I love my own quirky writing. I'm also a poet, dorky enough, and I have these ways, these turns of phrases that I love, and
Mhm.
these little, like, titles that I think are so cute. First of all, the internet has never liked them. They never do well. I gotta get over it.
Like, people on the internet?
No, I figured out that people like the writing that I do with AI better than they like my writing, and that hurt a little bit, I had to admit to it, and then I had to go, "That's why we're doing this, we're smoothing
Mm,
off the rough edges that I have."
mm,
We maybe take away a little bit of the personality, but we increase the accessibility and understanding. So, and that's just one use, and it's
mhm.
just one experience, but I think that it's informative that we just need to look at and recognize. I also think us lawyers don't like to be beginners,
Yeah,
and
I
and
wanna talk about that because but yeah, expand.
and
Yes,
and
I
so
agree
we
with
have
you.
to be beginners on this,
At
and the
some
truth
point,
is
you have to be a
everybody
beginner at everything. Yeah,
everybody's a beginner with it.
right.
Even the people that, like, talk about it all the time and present about it have only been using it for a few years, unless they literally designed it back at Stanford for
And
20
there's only a
years.
handful of those people.
There's only a handful of those people,
Right.
exactly,
100%.
and they're feeling like, "Finally, my prom has arrived."
I've been doing this for so long, and now you guys are paying attention.
Yeah. So we're all beginners, and we're all struggling with this, and then there's so many other places where the change is overwhelming, and so I've kind of picked this as the one that I'm focusing on now, and just trying to make do, but I have to recognize that my biology literally is not designed to deal with what's coming at me. That's
Full
we
circle
know
to
that
the
from
down.
immigration, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Well, when we were getting started on this episode, we were talking about like the fear of adoption, and I feel like fear of change is all encompassed in that, and sort of like what you just said about the lawyers being don't like being a beginner, and so like I think I've mentioned on some episodes like I feel like I've got a tsunami of AI and tech from one direction, and I've got immigration constant changing over here. I mean, I've been practicing for 17 years. I think I'm doing my math right. And it just like, if I was just starting, I don't know. I mean, I love board games, but I feel like it's like I'm playing a game where the rules are changing every 5 seconds. And then I have to sort of remember what was our objective and how do we accomplish the goal. Like I've done that at some like leadership activities where they change the rules without telling you, and then it's like you're supposed to be like, okay, so what happened? And that's the way I feel like we're dealing with. But in terms of beginners, like we added habeas federal litigation. We had been doing mandamus recently, last few years, but doing habeas, it felt I knew that's where the tea leaves were telling me that's where we're going. We need to do this, but I think we were all like, oh no, oh we need to talk to this person. We need to figure this out. We need to listen to all these trainings. We need to do all this stuff. And I was like, no, at some point we need to just do it. We just need to do it. Like of course
yeah.
we did that background stuff, but I think we were just afraid of the change, afraid of being a beginner, afraid of making a mistake. But like every
Mhm.
single person was a beginner at some point on whatever that they do. And then I'm so glad we finally just took that leap of faith. And
Mhm.
we're and that I sort of see that as like my little analogy to everything else. Like from maybe it's for them it's AI adoption or adding another practice area or I don't know, whatever it may be, trying out a virtual assistant, and they didn't jump on that bandwagon already or before, whatever it
Yeah.
may be. But like, I think that's a really good question. It's like, how do we overcome that fear of being a beginner? This episode is sponsored by Candle AI, the legal email assistant that helps legal teams spend less time on client emails. You heard me right, spending less time on emails. Candle AI works with both Gmail and Outlook, so you don't have to learn a new tool. And then it connects with popular case management systems like Clio, Filevine, Inasum, and more to come. It instantly shows you your case and the client details the moment you open a client email and right inside your inbox. Then that means less context switching and time spent jumping to different tabs to figure out what you need to respond. Candle can also draft context-aware responses to client emails and makes it easy to create, edit, and manage your email templates. If you want to save time and take back control of your inbox, check out Candle AI. I highly suggest it.
And it's when you were talking about that, it really reminded me. So I don't get as many people starting brand new law firms, brand new out of law school, or even just a brand new law firm, even if they've done something else, as much as I used to at the state bar level. But I still
Mm.
get some. But even through the whole 10 years I've been doing this work, sometimes I get people that are really gung ho, ready to go, like they finished law school and they're going to start a business and they're cool with it. And then other times I'd get this particular type of person who would come to me and they'd say, I have picked my furniture and I have picked my office and I have designed the logo and I have painted the office, and like they'll list everything that they've done as if the job is actually the checklist. The job isn't the checklist, right? The job is the clients. And 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 I realize after a certain number of these, I've done everything. I have written the business plan. By the way, most lawyers don't do the business plan, but if they've written the business plan, it's clear indication that they're one of these where I just say, you know what? You need to trust your education. You need to trust what you've done and take your first client, because you're never going to get everything right.
Mhm.
Every time you start a business, there's some things that you thought you knew, and then there's a blind spot. And you're like, 3 years later, 5 years later, you go, what? I thought I had everything in the bag. Or things change because that's our world. And you go, where did all these clients go? I had clients a year ago. And you have to just buck up and leap in a little bit with some faith. And I love what you were saying of, we did this and we did that. And then finally we just said, we just got to do this. I think that's the right attitude. It makes lawyers really nervous sometimes, especially the risk averse ones. And and I think I'm a little less risk averse than some, but I get it. I get the fear. The fear is founded. There are total anxieties about starting a new practice area or taking on anything new. And if you make a mistake, a lot of the time the consequences are pretty serious. And it's a good thing that us lawyers take that so seriously,
Mhm.
right? That's a part of the
Yeah.
profession that I think is special, that we have a sense of responsibility, and that most of us wake up in the middle of the night and we think we might have made a mistake. Like it is it can be burdensome though. We
Mhm.
we do have to find somewhere in between where we go, I'm human, I make
Yeah.
mistakes, but we have to move forward sometimes because we can't always wait for a precedent to be set. And I love precedent as much as the next lawyer, but there's just not going to be a precedent for some of these things that are coming in front of us. And you know, immigration is a great example right now. As you know, that habeas is part of immigration, but it seems to be the only thing that was working, right? That's
Well,
what I hear from
and we're waiting for
lawyers.
probably a Fifth Circuit case that could happen and change this the all thing. So I'm telling my team, like, this is what we're gonna do for now, but we need to be able to adapt and be. And I was even talking to my senior associate earlier today. I was like, that's what's been great about us being full service within our practice area of immigration, because like the pandemic, the State Department was down for consular appointments for a while. The court was down because they weren't electric. What was I going to say? They weren't electronic. Back they didn't. They didn't. All the judges didn't have laptops like they do now. And they do. No, they did it. Like they had to stop. In fact, it wasn't. It's been during my tenure that they went to electronic recording. They used to have tapes that if you FOIA an old case, you might get a tape that you cannot play unless you go to the court because there's this fancy $2,000 tape player that has some weird speed thing. Like
What?
anyway,
That is
I'm not
that
kidding you.
it still confounds me a little bit that our federal government has an arm that can have such archaic, processes
Yeah.
and things.
I mean, I'm so glad they went to electronic filing only like the handful of years. I mean, that's only been a handful of years. Like, what would it be like if we wouldn't be able to represent people so quickly in detention if we had to still be dealing with paper? But but yeah, I think going back to what you were saying, like there's got to be a healthy dose of like you're concerned, you're trying to do the right thing, you're following the rules. Or we're not saying break the rules or anything, but at the same time, like sometimes there's not guidance, and you're using your best like with a lot of the AI tools when they were coming out. And so usually when you and I are talking out there in the wild and conversations or conferences, like usually I say, try it on something that doesn't have consequences, like,
Right.
that doesn't have client information or anything specific, or like you're not legal, just like, I don't know, recipes for
No
dinner.
confidential
Yeah.
information, no client consequences.
Yeah.
Use AI to fiddle with that, right?
Right.
Maybe it's your budget and you're trying to figure out, how to understand your overhead better. Ask the AI about it. I made a list of about 50 uses that have nothing to do with client information, confidential information, or these things that cases,
Hmm.
legal research had nothing to do with that. They were all uses that you could just try out. And by the way, I will say one of my favorite uses for AI is your policies and procedures manual. And I
Mm.
know that it's one of those things that hardly any lawyers get done in their firm until they're a certain size. And they usually do it too late, very much how they usually hire too late. That
Mm.
they're way overworked, and then it's hard to train people, and boy, didn't they wish they had an employee handbook or a policy and procedure manual. Well, this is such a fabulous use of AI because it does understand the shape of things well. It's looked at billions or trillions of examples of different things. So when you say, help me write a policy and procedure manual, it can fill in all that stuff that you don't know. And then you're just filling in the details that you do know, that you want, and that fit your firm. And those are some of the best conversations to have with it. And then you come out with something that you can hand people. Or
Hmm.
even better yet, you just create a little AI agent or private chat GPT, as they call them, that
Hmm.
basically holds that whole thing. And your staff, your new staff person that doesn't know anything and is scared to ask you questions or asks you too many questions, can ask the AI, the very friendly, very sycophantic, sweet AI that says, Julie, that's a wonderful question. Let me tell you what the dress code is, you know? And and
Does it,
and
it have an accent when
yeah,
it?
yeah, and it can relieve this burden from you. And I think that this is the benefit is it can make those things that you have always struggled to do better. But it does have scary elements. And when you're using it in actual work, which I do think is a next step that should be taken after you get used to it, you need to change your verification procedures. By the way, I will say, if you have if you are reticent to use AI and you have not had this conversation with your staff, they are using it.
Mhm. Yeah.
If you have not told them you are not allowed to use it, and maybe even if you have, they are using it. Because so many of the cases that do come up with hallucinations are cases where the lawyer says, I had no idea that assistant was using this. Or we had conversations with her over and over to tell her not to. I watched a very painful BIA like situation where the person was trying to defend and say, we didn't use AI. Well, we think you did. The judges say, we think you certainly did. Well, we had conversations say that they can't. Doesn't mean that they don't. So that policy for AI use is your first one that you should draft. And real trainings and real conversations with people about it because they will use it because it makes work so much easier. My husband, he does a totally different type of work. He works in IT as a director, and for a while he was using it, and he goes, "I almost don't want to tell people I'm using it because it makes my work so much easier. They love what I do so much better, and I do it so fast." And I thought, boy, how many people are having that situation? So many people are doing that.
Yeah, I've heard about that where maybe employees don't want to talk about openly because they don't need as much time to do the thing. Like you just said, you can do what used to take 2 days in 2 hours. And so, the less driven person might be like, okay, well, I did my, all those people that are apparently working three jobs and getting full pay for three jobs at the same time.
Right,
I
right.
don't know what that, forgot what that's called, but It's like, yeah, maybe they're doing that somehow, but
You don't want to let on about their secret advantage, right?
right,
But
right.
but I think you need to have an attitude in your workplace of full disclosure, full transparency, and the sharing of that knowledge because that is the thing that will get the folks that are extremely fearful about it to come off of the fear train and go, maybe I should try this a little bit because the things that he's been doing are really good. And if I could do that, I would have that advantage.
Yeah, we'd share that on in our office meetings and try to get people excited, and then it gives them a chance to share and be an expert in something, and sort of like just share the excitement as well, not just the knowledge. But before I mean, we can talk forever. I know that, but but
Yeah, we could.
so I know we wanted to mention a bit about ABA Tech Show, and I know we're both excited about it because we're on the board. But
Yep.
what do you think listeners should know, and what are some of the things you're excited about with this next tech show?
Well, I was thinking about this. I love Tech Show. I've been going since I've been doing this work, so I guess it's been a decade. And one of the things that I'm most excited about is Startup Alley. Startup Alley, right now the voting is going, by the way, so you definitely should vote for your favorite. If you see this in time. It's it's all these new startups who present what their new product is, and the world generally gets to vote on the semifinalists, and then at Tech Show they get the presentations of the finalists and they get to vote which one's going to win. I think this year it's not necessarily a sometimes there's like an obvious winner. Like, you know, I'm trying to think. Last year was Quirios. I thought it was so obvious that Quirios was going to take it. And Universal Migrator was another one. Like, clearly, this is going to blow everybody else out of the water. I don't know if it's that clear this time, but I'm really excited that there's 3 immigration products. There's Drafty AI, there's Candle AI, which really could be used for non-immigration, but it has the immigration application for sure. And he started there. And then there's Legal Bridge, which is another product that we saw at AILA a few years ago and has really developed. And I know most of them are AI, and anybody that's thinking I'm not into that right now might be nervous about it. But I think you got to see those things to see what's coming down the pike. And
Yeah,
so
I
I
agree.
love that part. I also am really excited about some of the educational programs that we're doing. I'm really jazzed about one of the ones that one of them is on this policies and procedures with AI that I've been talking about. One of them is on that. But the other one is this concept of just technology as a leadership tool. The thing that gives you your key performance indicators, helps you iterate on your design, and then the training and the way to put all that together. And I feel like that's like sometimes the human element is the missing link. And so those are my programs, but everybody's programs I think are so top notch. There's going to be some workshops on AI. There's going to be the basics. I just think we're really knocking it out of the park with the programs. And then of course I love the parties and I love seeing people and meeting new friends, and the taste of Tech Show is one of my favorite things. So it's sometimes hard to get a seat to that. So people should sign up early. But I've always had the most interesting conversations with people at those dinners. And I like to get to know people, like, new people, but also see the people that I've seen there for years, and they're friends, even though I don't live in the same state with them most of the time.
Yeah, that's what's great about it is we have the educational component with the CLEs and non-CLEs, and then we have the expo hall, and then there's the parties and the dinners, and just like the little happenstance of serendipity of bumping into people as you're walking to get coffee or down the hall. And it's not Comic Con, but it's whatever that comic show is going to be right next to us. We're going to walk through that to get to ABA Tech Show, so that's going to be fun.
That'll be an interesting new
Yeah.
flavor, right?
We'll probably like be just like secretly taking pictures as we're like walking down the hall to be like, whoa, it's interesting. That'd be a fun job to dress up like that for work. You know?
What will be really interesting to me with that is how many of the lawyers fit in there or look bizarre there. That to me is like the yeah, I don't know. I think we might see a new side of a bunch of people who show
Yeah.
up in
Or
their
like how
capes.
many lawyers are gonna for the tech show are gonna dress up in some capacity. Like we know Brett is gonna do something probably, but anyway, like he did with the
Yeah.
80s night. Well, yeah, I'm equally excited and it's just around the corner. So people should definitely check it out at techshow.com. And yeah, those taste of tech shows are really great to mingle with people you don't know. And Mark Medini is doing a really good job trying to get a lot more dinners this year. And everyone pays for themselves, but you get to mix and mingle with people you might, whether it's a newbie or you've been going forever, you'll be able to take advantage of the connections of and the serendipity and the conversations together. Are you feeling overwhelmed by all the different things you have to do to run a law firm? Well, you're not alone. So many law firm owners are in the same boat. That's where Staffy steps in. More than 90 firms, just like yours, are leaning on their bilingual virtual staff for legal, administrative, marketing, and client-facing work, plus their full HR support. I currently have 11 team members with Staffy across my own firm and Power Strategy Group, and it's been a total game changer. Schedule a free initial consultation at staffy.cc, that's stafi.cc, and use the code RUBY, RUBY, for $500 off. Well, Charity, we are closing up shop here on this episode. So fun fact questions. What would you consider your superpower?
Oh, I guess I was supposed to have this in mind, wasn't I? I think it's probably my enthusiasm. I think it made people think I'm younger than I am, which is kinda nice, but I used to have people say, "You're so enthusiastic," and I almost thought it was this like a backhanded
Oh,
compliment, but actually, as I got older, the more I look at it, the more I think it's real, it's not
mhm.
put on, and I think that it is maybe lets people put their guard down a bit, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And be a little goofy. Um, I don't know. It might be I'd like to claim that I have amazing I read the Super Communicators book and, boy, it kinda amazed me, but I wish I'd be a great communicator like that, but I don't know that I'm that good. You know, those people
Well,
that can always
yeah,
persuade or
yeah.
always make people feel understood, and that's what I'd love to be, but I don't know that that's truly my superpower, so I'll just pick enthusiasm.
No, I think you got the enthusiasm because I was getting excited about ABA Tech Show and I'm on the board. Like you were just like listening all this stuff. I was like, yeah, like, you're like the hype woman there. I was like, great, let's do it.
Yeah, and
I mean, I forgot I was already sold, but like,
yeah, I'm
but,
preaching to the choir here, but it still worked on you, see? It's
yeah.
like
But yeah, when you mentioned that Super Communicators book on one of the board meetings we were in somewhere, I read it, but I think I need to reread it. But I think it was a good book. Because we communicate so much, and it's like I remember one of
Yeah.
the things was like, what type of conversation is this, or what's the purpose of this communication? I don't know. That was one of my takeaways. I know there's a lot of takeaways from it. I probably listened to it too fast, but
There was so many takeaways. I listened to it too, and I found that I had to keep on stopping and taking
yeah,
notes because it was very dense on
yeah,
content. Not that it was hard content, but it was like a very actual applicable things.
right.
And I found myself going, "Wait, what did he say? What did he say?" But I thought it was an enjoyable one too, which is sometimes you could get those books on tape and it's the author reading and you go, "Oh gosh, I
It
wish
can
I
work
had."
and it cannot work. Yeah,
Yeah. That one's a work. That one's a
yeah.
good one.
Mhm.
And it too, I do think it's one of those that's good maybe more than once because
Yeah, I could see that.
it's
Well, I
deep.
mean, that was my next question is what's a book you would recommend? Is it that one or
Well,
a different one?
it's not. I have 2. I have
Okay.
2 because they both have a justice theme. So I'm a big fiction fanatic. Like almost all the books I read are fiction until I added the Audible because I felt like I wasn't enriching myself at all. I was like, I love reading fiction, a little too much escapism here. So my favorite book last year was Pony Confidential. It is about Pony and Penny alternating viewpoints. Pony is an actual pony and used to be Penny's when she was a girl, and then
Ah,
bad things happened. It sounds ridiculous. It sounds like the most ridiculous book. It was funny, it was emotional, it has these justice themes. Uh,
mhm.
Sometimes they do that animal voice in books and it loses it about halfway through, and you're like, "Yeah, this doesn't sound like a pony anymore." All the way through, I believed it was Pony. I was rooting for Pony. He was my favorite character in the world. So, Pony Confidential is one of them. And then the other one, which is actual nonfiction with a true, uh, justice theme, is Sing Sing. I
Mm,
was given this book at the CleoCon.
okay.
It was one of the swag things. I saw the keynote that was the writer and the main subject of the book. I cried. I was like, "That's why I'm a lawyer." And I felt it deeply. It's one of the issues I care about a lot. It's read by the author, so it's one of those that you really should listen to because he's like a what is he? He's on Dateline, I think. So
Oh,
he's like a big personality, very good reader of the book.
okay.
And I was captivated. I did it in 2 days, like I couldn't stop listening. And it also will make you very sad about the justice system
Oh,
because it is about 7 wrongfully incarcerated men, but they all get released. So
okay.
it does have some happiness to it, but it also sort of breaks your heart that we're part of this system
Mhm,
that seems so hell-bent on not admitting its failures.
mm.
That's basically what it is, and so very good book, so worth it. Read a whole bunch of fiction Pony Confidentials after
Okay. Well,
because
your
it'll
enthusiasm is selling it
yeah.
right now, so you're communicating effectively. Okay, so the last 2 questions were, let's see, what's your favorite, or maybe I think I'm just down to 1 now. What's your favorite board game or card game?
Jenga's pretty fun. I'm not a huge player of the board games. I'm gonna say I got this little music trivia one. It was, like, in a tiny little
Uh-huh.
box for Christmas
Oh,
last
'cause
year
your family really loves music. You're all
'cause I
music.
have a
Yeah,
musician son,
yeah.
and it had people belting out songs and
Oh,
stuff.
fun.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh, that was pretty fun. I think I'm gonna say that one.
Okay, well, you say that. Then I remember the 4th question, and I should know this already, but what's a habit you think contributes to your success?
I can think of all the ones that don't. Isn't that wonderful? The Lord praying right here.
That wasn't
I
the
can think of
question.
I'm a glass half empty person. No, I can think of all the things that don't. I think actually it's right on theme. I think that I'm willing to pick up new things and do them, and even to be look a little dorky and goofy out there and be like, "I'll be the first. Let
Mhm.
me do it." Which I think you and I share that a little bit. Though
I
you're a bit
do.
more buttoned up than me, you do. You're like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna be authentic." And I just love that about you. I think it's
Oh,
wonderful. So,
too dirty. I guess that's where we found each other. We both are willing to be a little, I guess out there, sort of not be perfect or not know everything, and just sort of do a leap of faith and sort of and be authentic in that, and just and try, and then sometimes people follow because they're like, oh well, they're a leader in the field, or they don't exactly know, but they're paving the way, and we're doing the best we can in this space,
yeah.
and we're adapting to change, and overcoming any potential fear to being a beginner or adoption or change, And I mean, I think that's essential to growth, right? The growth mindset and to
Yeah.
being a better person, lawyer, manager, parent, you name it, anything.
I remember the first time I met you, or the first
Okay.
time I remember
Are
meeting
we
you.
should we keep recording? Should I
And
click? No.
I mean, what you could do, you could decide to lob it off if you want. It's totally
We
fine.
don't edit much, so we'll probably keep it. Okay, let's see what
But
you're gonna say.
but I'll tell you the first time I think that's all absolutely true. And the first time I met you, I remember we were at a dinner for AILA, and I don't know, I think I offhandedly said I grew up really poor,
Mm,
which I don't always say, and it is pretty personal.
mhm.
And then you very interestingly asked me about it. And
Oh.
I had this little moment where I thought, "Oh, crap. I wish I hadn't said that." Like, I don't know how much I'm willing to share here, because
Huh.
A, it's not just with friends, it's my work too. So I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh gosh." Oh, here I go, being my authentic self. I thought, if I'm gonna, say it, I better do it. And then but one of the things that I loved about you is you shared things about your life, like,
Mm,
really honest, like,
mhm,
things about, I'm thinking about this and this is important. And it wasn't all on law, which
mhm.
I think sometimes we spend a little bit too much time steeped in our work.
Yeah.
And I just instantly thought you were great after
Oh,
that.
thank
And
you.
so
That's
I would say that's all true. Like, yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. And I mean, I think that's vulnerable is the word I was trying to say because you said it earlier. Like, yeah, I think that's where we grow. It's like when we're in that uncomfortable place and we're vulnerable, right? And I think that
Mhm.
that's across the board, whether we're talking about AI adoption or learning how to manage or learning a new practice area or, being in a room full of people we don't know at a networking event, whatever it may be. Well, Charity, how can people find you and stay connected?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm actually easy to find. If you put, I think I'm the only Charity Anastasio.
Okay. Sounds good, and we'll have it in the show notes as well. Well, Charity, I've been begging you to be on my podcast for as long as I think it's been in existence. So I'm really glad that you joined us today, and I'm looking forward to continuing working with you with ABA Tech Show and AILA and everything else. And so thanks for bringing your enthusiasm and vulnerability to today's episode. And I really appreciate our friendship and professional relationship as well as you share so much with our community.
Thank you. It's not, you make it sound like I said no. I maybe was a little slow, but yeah, I'm happy to be here.
You
It's
didn't
always
say
fun.
no. You were just busy, and like I
I
had to keep
was.
reminding you.
It's true. And and then I was like, I didn't send my answers
It's
fast. Like,
okay. It's okay.
yeah.
It's script. It's all good.
It was really fun talking with you, and you
Sure.
know what? You're an awesome vice chair for the ABA
Aw,
Tech Show board, and
thank
you're
you.
gonna be even better co-chair of the
Oh,
next
thank
year of the
you.
board,
Yeah.
and I hope I get to stay with you on the
I hope so
course.
too. I hope so too. I mean, I think what makes it fun is when we have a good team and the dynamic.
Yeah,
I've enjoyed the 2 years I've been on it so far, so it's been great.
good.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. It's been great having this discussion. I think it's so timely, whatever we're overcoming, in our lives, and just being comfortable, overcoming the fear of being a beginner is so critical in whatever we do. So we'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in to Power Up Your Practice. I'm Ruby Powers, and it's been a pleasure sharing this time with you. We love your reviews. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us one and share this podcast with someone else so that they can know what you've been learning on our show. And make sure to check out the Power Up Your Practice book. It's available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon. It's packed with 25 chapters of strategies to grow and streamline your firm. And we also have the free Power Hub community on School to keep the conversation going in between the episodes. So make sure to keep powering up your practice, and we'll see you next time.